Hi everybody, because of visual difficulties, I have just decided to record an audio version of our concluding part of our two-part series on Billy Joel's Russian tour. And today we're going to review the live album, which is an expanded edition of the original live release from 1987, which I believe was taken from a radio broadcast of the show, because many of, I think, the shows were broadcast on the radio. I have several favorites on this record, chief among them the version of A Matter of Trust. This is, to me, one of the definitive live versions of the song. I love it. Another one of my favorites is The Longest Time, which is coupled with another doo-wop classic called What's Your Name, originally recorded by Don and Juan. Now, as I stated on Monday, Billy was having vocal difficulties because of the bad sound mix on the tour, and I think that is highly evident in the performances of What's Your Name and The Longest Time, which are still good performances. Another one of my favorites on here is the version of She's Always a Woman, which is somewhat of a rarity, and the version of The Ballad of Billy the Kid, which I think Billy had given up for a couple years up to this point and stopped doing live. The show closes with a version of the Beatles' Back in the USSR, and also the album closes with an acoustic guitar version of Bob Dylan's The Times They Are Changin', which I think is rather fitting to perform, for Billy to perform at, to close the show with, because in 1987, times were changing in Russia. Communism was about ready to fall. The Berlin Wall was about ready to come down too. And actually, more and more in the coming years, more and more Western rock bands, for example, Roger Waters, would do a performance of The Wall in Berlin in 1990. So I think more and more Western rock artists started to perform in Russia, after this. And actually, Billy wasn't the first Western artist to perform in Russia. Like I stated on Monday, in 1979, Elton John performed in Russia also. Something else that I forgot to mention Monday also is that on this tour, Billy had a translator that would translate all his song introductions and stories. When I first listened to the album, the first release of the record, I think it was rather jarring to hear that the song introductions being translated, because I'm so used to having artists just introduce their songs without the translator's interjections. But over the years, I've become quite accustomed to it, and it is rather cool to hear how Billy's song titles and stories were translated into Russian. So I hope you enjoy this. Thanks for listening.